A very good morning to all of you. This is Venkatesh, your faculty for geography. Welcome to the Super Coaching IAS textbook. In this session, we'll discuss about the success story of disasters in India. You have seen that India has done a rapid progress of disaster management in the last 2-3 decades. The case of 99 when compared with now is a I would say that it is before and after. You have seen that in the last 20 years, in the last 2 decades, the things have not improved, radically improved. Okay, the reason is very simple. Why did you grow to that extent? Because of the what do you say? Because of the increasing our infrastructure, because of our increasing of the management legislation in every aspect of India, we had seen rapid progress. Of course, there is still room for improvement. There are so many things to do, but this is a case where we can say that there is a desire for improvement and there is a consistency in the activities, in the actions of the government, which led to say that I would not hesitate to say this word that Mera Bharat Mahan when I see that success story of disaster management in India. Of course, having said that Mera Bharat Mahan, I would not be stopping there. I would be going further. I would be talking about how we can make it much more resilient so that in next 10 years we can manage our disasters much more efficiently. There is learning for improvement as well, but you also need to know the progress. So this is the story of India. When you talk about the disaster management, be it in terms of rescue and rehabilitation, you can see the rescue and rehabilitation, we have done a rapid progress. Okay, in terms of early warning systems, especially for cyclones and all, we have done a rapid progress. On legislation aspects, we have done a rapid progress. There is a National Disaster Management Act. There is a better coordination of efforts between the central government and the state government, and even to a certain extent, not completely, even to the local level as well. So there is a progress on the institutional level changes which you have done. There is a technological success story of ISRO which led to better forecasting of so many atmospheric based disasters in India, especially the atmosphere based disasters, right? So when you talk about the disasters, what are the things you need to focus upon? You need to focus on multiple things. If you see the disaster management cycle, the first thing, response. The disaster has occurred, response. How are you giving about taking care about providing shelters? How are you evacuating them? How are you rescuing them? We have the people here, NDRF team, National Disaster Response Force team, which has done a more or less a decent job by getting people from paramilitary forces of India, by getting people from the state responses and all, police and different things, who have done more or less a success thing here. Are you able to follow, all of you? Are you able to see the context here? Right. Okay. Then when you talk about, you see, our rescue and rehabilitation, our NDRF team, the amount of humanitarian assistance which you have given, the amount of food which you have given, all the things, even we are sharing that information with other countries. We are giving our knowledge, we are giving our resources to other countries. For example, the 2023 Turkey earthquake, which has caused major havoc in Turkey and in other parts like Syria. You have seen that India has sent 3 to 4 batches of NDRF team for rescue, for rehabilitation, for the amount of food, for the food aid, the cloth aid, the ambulance services. We have provided decent services to the world. So in fact, it is a success story of that. Not just that, when you talk about the success story of India, about the disasters, you can see that one of the major success we have done in the last few years, in the last 2 decades, is about early warning forecasting measures. What is happening here? Okay, just a minute. Yeah. If you see this, yeah, just a minute. Yeah. So if you see it here, the recent, especially in the cyclones, take a 99 cyclone. Okay, take the year 1999. Imagine there is a cyclone in the Bay of Bengal. Say somebody a cyclone here, a 99 super cyclone. While you are able to track a 99 super cyclone, what is happening is, for example, while you are tracking about, forecasting about, understanding about cyclones, the amount of time was very less and the area, the accurate of the forecast was not that superior. So the early warning systems which we had in 99 were not so good. So what happens? For example, imagine a cyclone occurs here. We will say that a cyclone might hit any part of this portion within a short period of time. The amount of time given for the authorities, the amount of, say, better forecasting of the accuracy of the cyclone path was huge back then. Whereas now, if you see a recent cyclone called as Migjom, which has happened in the first week of December 2023 around the east coast of India, especially around Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, we can see that forecast was very, very superior. Are you able to follow? Right? You can see the forecast was very, very superior. Okay. You have seen that the forecast was superior, the path was easily identified. So we know that where the cyclone will be hitting the coastland. We know that for sure. That was the success story in the past. That was the also limitations of the past. Come back to now. If you see the last 10 years since 2013 and until now, the amount of cyclone early warning systems which you have done and which led to the death toll reducing in India is a story to be proud of. If you see on the eastern coast, a similar cyclone in 99 is causing a loss of life around 10,000 people. 10,000. Whereas right now, the number of death toll happens to be most of the time less than 50, less than 100. Of course, every life matters, no doubt, but the death toll was significantly reduced. There was one cyclone called Cyclone Taukte on the west coast of India hitting Gujarat in 2021. That has caused more lives, say around 190 to 200 lives. But the remaining cyclones were recently where the death toll was very less. One of the prime reason for the death toll lesser is this, the early warning systems. Not just the early warning systems we had. The early warning systems. Along with that, National Disaster Management Act, which led to creation of Response Force, National Disaster Response Force. This is far superior step. The learnings of, say, an earthquake in 2001 called the Bhuj earthquake, which hit the region of Bhuj in Gujarat with a 7.7 Richter scale capacity. We have seen that after that there was a need for improvement. Subsequently, there was better coordination efforts. There was about focus on National Disaster Response Force. Because of this NDRF, we are able to have more manpower which have been trained regularly. So we have that manpower, and we have also increased their capacity building in terms of the capacity to manage the disasters. Every year, the NDRF will be trained under rescue rehabilitation of how to communicate in every aspect. The people will be trained. Their capacity is increasing day by day. The amount of money which is being allocated, that is also being increasing every year. All these kind of things have shown the success of India. But these three things together, early warning systems, manpower supported with capacity building, proper coordination of efforts, and also the use of the communication, rapid dissemination of information to the public. If you see that, say color coded warnings, we are providing rapid information to the public. So the color coded warnings, okay, proper dissemination of information, info to the public, better community awareness, okay, uh, better about say use of latest technologies, okay, use of social media, all these things we have given proper information to the public as well. For example, cyclone, naming of the cyclones, there is a proper information. For example, imagine there is a flood, there is a proper information. So all these kind of things have given certain amount of what do you say, some kind of strength for our people to be informed about the possible disasters and move forward. Yes, these are all success, no doubt. Yeah, there are challenges. We'll discuss about the challenges as well. But definitely, you cannot ignore these kind of the success stories which you have seen around every disaster. Right? Right? So, if you see that, what more you have? You can talk about the technological innovations, the effective strategies of our handling about each disaster that has increased. The lives were significantly reduced. Not just that, it's a continuous progress. It is like a marathon, no? You remember that marathon of relay marathon, or you can talk about that 4x100 relay in Olympics. There will be a step, then they will be passing on that, then they have to continue. If you see that, there are further more steps. You can see that the rescue operations, especially after the disaster, have significantly improved because of this. You can see helicopters being used in case of a landslide or a flood in the Himalayas, or else any region when it is flooded, be it about the floods, the unusual rainfall, or about the cyclones. You can see better rescue of the people at different places. You can see about now with all these kind of things, there is more focus about infrastructure now. You can see that there is more focus on infrastructure. Even the recent G20 summit in India has focused on partnerships, have focused on engagement, has focused on finance, all with respect to how to make our infrastructure very resilient, very resilient. I have a saying for you. What do you mean by resilient infrastructure? Coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. What do you mean by disaster resilient infrastructure? I have a saying for you, a special saying. If you remember this, you will understand the motto of earthquakes, the motto of disaster management. Say, for example, I would say that earthquakes earthquakes won't kill people, but disasters do. Earthquake won't kill people, but sorry, yeah. Earthquakes won't kill people, but buildings do. Now, the key word here you need to highlight is buildings. Earthquakes won't kill people, but buildings do. So, what you need to do? You need to provide proper infrastructure of buildings so that they are resilient to infrastructure. How? There is a building code. Building code. One of the things we have done a success is, for example, the major step with respect to identification of disasters is understanding about the vulnerability of each disaster. For example, here you can see that this is the zone of high, what do you say, zone of high, yeah, this is the zone of high disasters. What kind of disasters occurs in the Himalayan region? You should be definitely knowing about the earthquakes. You can worry about the landslides. You can talk about the cloud burst. You have a huge kinds of a disasters, right? Earthquakes, landslides, cloud burst. We had a huge kinds of disasters. Okay, so for example, this region is known for earthquakes because of the plate movement. We know that this is a zone of seismic 5. We know that this is a zone of seismic 4. So what happens? Next time any kinds of urban infrastructure which is being developed, what kind of infrastructure where is already a proper buildings code which will suit to the vulnerability of earthquakes. We know that east coast of India is more vulnerable to disasters. Why? Because of the cyclones. Bay of Bengal receives more amount of cyclones than Arabian Sea. You see here, the disaster vulnerability, the number of disasters will usually is less on the west, less here, but it is more here. So what happens? There is a better management of disasters on the cyclone front on the Bay of Bengal, but there is still room for improvement on the Arabian Sea front, on the west coast of India. Tomorrow, if a similar cyclone, of late in the last 3-4 years, you are seeing that the cyclones from Arabian Sea are increasing more. So we need around efficient forecasting there. We need around proper dissemination of information at the ground level, which can go to the success. Next time any question on disasters, you have to focus about how to focus on the infrastructure and community preparedness of cyclones on the west coast, because that is where the challenge lies. We are doing well on the early warning systems. We are unable to do well on the other things. Be it about the first step in any disaster, understanding the vulnerability. We know it. But the challenge is how to manage it. For example, nowadays, with the factor of climate change, where do you find disasters? What is the intensity of the disaster? When do you find the disaster? When does it occurs? There is so much amount of ambiguity, confusion. That confusion is leading to some challenges. Yes, under the era of climate change, when you know that intensity of a disaster, frequency of a disaster is bound to increase. Earlier, out of every 5 cyclones reported, 4 are from Bay of Bengal, 1 is from Arabian Sea. Nowadays, the number of cyclones from the Arabian Sea is increasing even further. This is the challenge. I hope you are able to follow. You have seen that. Okay. Now, if you see any comments you had, any doubts you have, right? Okay, right. Then intensity and frequency of disasters. Moving forward, also, see what more disasters you have. Now see it from the disaster point of view. How well are you doing? Let me tell you about the disaster cycle. I'll give an information to that. See, if you talk about the disaster cycle, for example, preparation and mitigation. So what are the preparation and mitigation stages? This is pre-disaster, before a disaster strikes. Say floods. Floods in India are a indicator of, say, continuous rainfall in the month of monsoon months. We know that floods will occur definitely in the months of June, July, August, October, September, especially. Of course, with climate change, there is any time, but this is the usual norm. So, pre-disaster, we know that earthquakes will be definitely occurring in the areas of early warning. We know that in the areas of the plate tectonics. So, we have information of where earthquakes occur. So, how well are you preparing with respect to mitigation and preparedness? So, the first, understanding vulnerability comes in the preparedness of mitigation and in the understanding vulnerability comes in preparation and mitigation. How well are you doing in each disaster? Let us understand. Cyclone. Do you know which areas will be hitting cyclone? Yes. Do you know which areas are hitting around earthquakes? Yes. But what about landslides? Landslides, we know that Himalayan areas is known for landslides, but within Himalayas, there has to be proper slope management studies. There has to be better management of, say, some in things which you can reduce. The vulnerability can be reduced. Similarly, there can be better focus on, say, the management of floods in India. For example, the urban landscape, because it is urban areas are concrete jungles without any kind of what do you say, rapid without any opportunity for percolation of water, you are seeing that a smaller rainfall is also causing major havoc in our cities. This is the challenge. So we need to prepare and mitigate our vulnerability at each level, right? In terms of rescue response, we are doing fairly well. There is an NDRF team, institutional measures, there is better coordination of efforts which we are doing. There is around, say that technological information is improving. All these things are happening. I still remember that after 2018 Kerala floods, the Kerala government, I was reading an interview about the Kerala floods by the chief minister. Then the question asked by a reporter was, sir, what are the learnings out of this? The chief minister clearly said that there is a need for better understanding of floods in India in terms of forecast. So he has identified one of the challenges as forecast. Of course, we can talk about the developmental policies, we can talk about how we are ignoring that as well. That is also there. But having said that, there is also a vacuum in terms of forecasting. We are doing well over there. So slowly we are focusing on the, what do you say, understanding about mitigating and preparing about a certain disaster like flood. So there is a room for improvement there. That is what the learnings are. Response, more or less we are doing well, be it in terms of providing the aid, the food, cloth, shelter. There are cyclonic shelters. There is food which is being provided. The military things, they regularly provide food in case of any kind of people are stranded. That is being regularly monitored. There is proper satellite communication with respect to things. So we are doing well with respect to response. Recovery, there is a room for improvement. How well you do it about recovery? But the key focus is now, what do you do pre-disaster? Pre-disaster, what are you doing? There is a significant still focus about. So having said the success story of India in terms of the response, in terms of the preparation, especially like cyclones and all, there is still room for improvement. What is the room for improvement you have? So where are the room for improvement? Do you have room for improvement? Definitely yes. Where? One, in terms of early warning systems, especially for landslides, we need to focus. We need to focus on early warning system. We need to focus on better urban planning, which can reduce the disasters of management of floods, of management of cyclones. By the way, have you heard about this concept called as, what do you say, sponge city? What does a sponge does? Sponge will percolate the water, no? Will take the water, no? So you have to develop your cities in such a way that there is able to absorb water. So that is a better planning. For example, if you see, the Chennai airport was constructed on an ancient river bed. So whenever there is a flood or a cyclone, it is the first communication network which gets disrupted in Chennai. Kochi airport, flooding, airport gets flooded. So all these kind of things we can manage. We need to plan our airports well next time, so that there will be centers of absorption, so that there is less impact on the major infrastructure of the city. The crucial infrastructure of the city cannot be go unplanned. So there has to be better urban planning. That is there definitely room for improvement. Early warning systems, yes. Landslides management, very, very challenging. If you see about Himalayas, for example, the building codes, in the Himalayas for earthquakes, there is a room for improvement. Building code in Himalayas, there is a room for improvement. There is a room for improvement in terms of development in fragile areas of Himalayas. Recently, with respect to more amount of disasters, there is a room for improvement. Not just the atmospheric or the natural disasters, even on the front of industrial disasters, there is significant progress we have done, but is still room for improvement. You all might have known about the Bhopal gas tragedy. You have seen a popular web series by name Railwayman. Some of you might have watched the Railwayman, right? You can see how the disaster challenges are there. Of late, still, when you talk about any industrial disaster, the first thing you need to have is regulation. How well are you monitoring the crucial infrastructure which can cause disasters? Regulation. So you can talk about industrial disasters, room for improvement in terms of regulation. Another important thing about the room for improvement in industrial disaster is what you call it as say zoning of cities. Zoning. If you see that industrial Bhopal gas tragedy, how can a slum can be located very near to a factory? You cannot, you need to have some buffer zones. That is one of the major disaster of that. If you locate that slum away from the factory, you can see that the amount of death can be reduced. So always there is a rule in the disasters that any vulnerable infrastructure or any kind of infrastructure, any kind of an industry which cause major havoc, you have to locate them far away. You cannot locate them nearer. So there has to be better zoning. Are you able to follow this? So regulation, zoning, and also there is, with respect to industrial management, you can also talk about the corruption angle in our pollution control board. Often it is a pollution control board which will be regulating. There are always some kind of allegations against some kind of officers who are not doing their office proper, not doing their work properly, which is leading to some benefits to the industries. So there is to be proper monitoring, strict enforcement of the law, and as well as zoning, which can reduce the impact of industrial disasters. I still remember that there was a similar kind of an industrial disaster in Visakhapatnam during the time of corona first wave, where was an industrial disaster happened, where some kind of a harmful gas was released and few people died, where people have communicated, where people remember about the Bhopal gas tragedy back then, though it was not of the similar proportion. That talks about the vacuum in the regulation and the zoning even now. So you have to take efforts in such a way that industries, you have to locate them far away from the people except the workers. Of course, workers management also has to be there, but they will be working there. We have to, that is a different story. But definitely any kind of a colony, a slum area has to be not be located nearer to an industry. This is a learning we need to do. This is about the room for improvement. See, everything, there is a focus on progress. There is also a focus on multiple things. I hope you are able to follow this. These are the rooms for improvement for our thing to be developed. Moving forward, this is the key thing. And in the last few years, what we are doing right now, what will be the focus now is this CDRI. how can you provide our infrastructure? Of late, any disaster is causing around less death toll, and for that is to us, if you see from the positive angle, the death toll is less, but unfortunately we have to save every life. There is still room for improvement there as well. But the next few years, focus will be more shifted towards infrastructure as well, because there is so much amount of loss in terms of money which you are trying to stop now. This is another focus will be happening in the next 5 years. So this is a trend you have to understand. For more such information, please join my Telegram channel. You can share this QR code. You can scan this code and join into my Telegram channel. I will be giving about major information about new things about cyclone, new things about geography. I'll be sharing crucial informations. I'll be motivating you, the tips, strategies. There will be information about current affairs, what not. Everything will be there in the Telegram channel. You can get into the Telegram channel. Okay. So until then, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Keep like this video, so that YouTube algorithm will be identifying this video as a good thing. If you felt good, share this video to your friends, because sharing is caring. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll come with a new topic again tomorrow. Thank you for watching.